Welcome, everyone. This is Glenda Dawson, and you're watching Glenda's Dragon's Den. Want to take this moment to say how grateful I am to everyone who has subscribed, to everyone that supports us, to everyone that shares this. Because the more that people watch it, you never know who is going to spark an awakening moment, who is going to spark a memory, who is going to feel like they're not alone in this life. Because everyone's experiencing many different things these days, a lot more than people think. And sometimes we think we're alone, that we're the only ones, or maybe we think we're going crazy, and we're not. Uh, we have been blessed to be at a time where everything seems to be happening all at once. And the knowledge that keeps coming up is because of people who are brave, have courage to speak up, to speak out, and to show what the reality as it appears at that moment is. So, with that being said, please don't forget to subscribe. It does not cost anything to subscribe. So, there's no reason. You can't tell me anything about anything now. So, I do have a great guest who I've had previously, but he is so knowledgeable. He has experienced so many things that he reached out, and I was like, yes, come on. I was going to reach out and ask you to come back up, but he beat me to the punch. He read my thoughts. That's what it was. He read my thoughts. Welcome, Brian. How are you today?
Good, Glenda. Even though it's what 5 planets are in retrograde right now, I'm doing okay.
Yes, it's 5 planets in retrograde, and we're definitely, most of us are feeling it. Most of us are feeling it.
Yeah, I've been
Whether
feeling it. So I'm glad you told me that because we were chatting earlier and thought, oh, that explains what's going on here.
yes, it explains why you're sitting up and all of a sudden you just want to fall asleep. But so tell us a little bit about you, and so the audience, if they had never seen you before, which I doubt, I don't understand why, but if they had never met you, and or they just forgotten, why don't you give us a little background? So.
Well, yeah, I've been, I guess, involved with the UFO community. That's my focus since around 2006. I got more involved in it. So now I make podcasts on UFOs, and I've got a ET hypothesis and sources trying to explain, why are they here? An hypothesis, why are they here? But I can't come from a Buddhist background. Like I published 3 Buddhist books. This is one of them, and I talk about in it. Sorry, talk about Buddhist cosmology relating to extraterrestrials, higher realms, devas, UFOs.
Mhm.
There's even a series about that. So I kind of got into this from a Buddhist perspective. I've been a Buddhist teacher for over 20 years. Been a Buddhist since 1991. So that's how I got into the whole thing. So I'm kind of on a mission to improve the reputation of the E.T.s. I think they're here to help. I think they're a good influence on the world. So I'm kind of like a representative trying to trying to promote the extraterrestrial agenda for human advancement. Right on my website at brianruhe.ca, the byline at the top is raising awareness about the ET agenda for human advancement. So that's my mission in life.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I agree with you. I do believe ETs are here. UFOs are here to help us, and they are here um, in definitely more of a presence right now because we need the help more than we have before. They're seeing that we are awakening, but that we really have no guidance. They're seeing that some refuse to awaken, and maybe they need to be shown a little bit so that they can stop fighting and just let humanity raise their vibration and frequency, so we don't kill each other, so we don't demolish this earth. I think we're at a time here where it could be very dangerous for all of us, and earth is very important. Very
Yeah, I think
important.
Earth is important to them. Like it's an important planet. They don't want us blowing it up. We don't have the right to do that. They
Right.
have the right to intervene to take care of the Earth. It's not just humanity, but Earth itself is important to them, I think.
Yes. 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 It's a lot of resources, and also in a soul level, Earth is important because it's where we actually one of the main planets where we actually come to be able to evolve our soul. Um, through our experiences, through our tribulations, through our trials, whatever you want to call it. And we find a way to learn the lessons and evolve to a higher frequency, a higher level in our soul evolution.
Yeah, part of my hypothesis is the souls kind of coming in, or like ETs are choosing to take human rebirth. There's a process described by Susan Hanson. She's got the book Dual Soul Connection. She talks about the three waves of souls.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a process where perhaps since the middle of the 1800s, various ETs have been coming in to change society. So, like, I think one thing that we can look back on in 1848, for instance, was the beginning of the spiritualist movement with the Fox sisters in the United States. So, spiritualism kind of provided an alternative to kind of a rigid Christianity. Most everybody was Christian, but also at the same time, 1848, you had a negative influence with Karl Marx produced the Communist Manifesto. So it seems to be good and bad are side by side, like the yin and yang, good and bad are happening together all the time, everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's my part of my hypothesis is that's when in recent history, this is when it began around mid 1800s, the spiritualist movement to kind of change, just open up the mind, the sort of rigid thinking of the Western Christian kind of thinking mind to give it an alternative.
Right, right. No, definitely. And let's face it, we needed it. The very strict Christian philosophy at that point was extremely harmful to people, and a lot of deaths, unnecessary deaths and killings. Uh, Very judgmental, although it is part of what most religions don't judge, but yet very judgmental. So I have
Yeah.
nothing against any true believer of what they believe in, because we are all the very first, I would say, law. It's love, right? Unconditional love. And as long as we follow that, everything else falls into place. But uh, humans being humans, we forget that sometimes.
Yeah. Yes, that kind of opened up the mind, I guess. And then I think by the 1900s, almost half of America was kind of influenced by spiritualism. So Christianity was sort of opening up, and there was other alternatives at that point.
Hmm.
And then I think with this process of three waves of souls, what's happening now is there's various like star kids coming into being, like these star kids, like particularly say since the 1980s, around that time. Some are
Hmm.
really gifted children, and Susan Hanson describes the concealed ones. These are people that are highly trained on craft by ETs, and they're assume positions of leadership and power. And then they'll turn the tables on corruption in the world in a good way. So there could be this wave right across the board of kind of you know much greater betterment for humanity, all right across the board, of these concealed ones kind of waking up. So that's like
Hmm.
these star kids. Some of them will wake up, or these concealed ones will. So that's is all part of this process of how ETs are working behind the scenes. But so the ETs aren't doing it overtly; they're actually taking rebirth as human beings. So human beings have to do the work, but we're getting help kind of behind the scenes, I think.
Right, right, right. So tell us, more about your blog and what you wrote and how you came about deciding to do that. Because
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I want to sort of like there's thousands of UFO books and millions of videos. I wanted to condense something down that would take about an hour to read with a core hypothesis about the really why it's going on. And really it begins with the mantid ETs. They're believed to be perhaps the highest intelligence humanities. ever encountered. So they're about 7 or 8 feet tall. They look like the insect, the praying mantis. So it
Mm-hmm.
seems these are like the architects of the whole program of planet Earth, like life on Earth and the process of bringing like DNA to Earth, life and early man. This could be this whole process over billions of years was initiated by the mantids. And then their emissaries or technicians, you could say, are the gray E.T.s. So people see the grays more than any others, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that's because we don't see the mantids as much. They're like the managers, the architects. And of
Right.
course, there's others. There's other like advanced humans. There's other types of ETs. But it seems the Greys were selected as the most capable or competent with working with mankind. So they're the ones who are best at doing their job. But the
Mm-hmm.
real leaders or architects seem to be the mantids. And people have met mantids, describe them as deeply wise. So and very, very loving, compassionate, but very wise beings. So they seem, even Richard Dolan, he's quite well-known UFO historian. He says they're perhaps the highest intelligence and mankind has yet encountered, that anyone's encountered. There might be more than that or higher than that. I'm not sure about what's going on across the whole galaxy, but for planet Earth, it seems to be the mantis seem to be the legitimate government of planet Earth. Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
that's a provocative statement when you tell people, well, they're the real legitimate government.
Right.
Oh, really?
Oh, whoops. But on that, people don't realize that even like the United States, the president is got right here, but there's a lot of higher security clearances levels above the president, and those are really the ones that are managing and putting things into play, and that I do believe has some ET component to it.
Yeah, I guess they're managing the UFO secrecy. In terms of government, I think with the good and bad paradigm, I think there's a negative reptilian influence. I actually got David Icke's book when they first publicized this in 1999, The Biggest Secret.
Mm.
Yeah, so that I think that's basically his thesis is basically true, that there's a negative reptilian force. They might actually be native to Earth, like reptarians is one term Judy Carroll describes them as. Um, so they may be native to Earth, but I think they control a globalist faction, like globalist international bankers beyond the
Mhm.
American government. So in my view, with the globalist control, I don't believe in the real genuine existence of sovereign countries. I think all of our 195 countries in the world are all controlled through globalist forces. And we see that with corporations and influence, and how politicians don't seem to be able to make too much of a difference, and they don't seem to be in control, Like one president gets elected and they go, oh, great, he's going to do something, but then the policies don't change that much because it shows there's a higher control.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think that's the negative forces, but I think the mantids and the grays are the good forces. So they have this good and bad thing going on. And I think the law of karma just allows for all of that to play itself out.
Well, it has to be balanced, right? Everything in life has to be balanced. Even if you do an action, you're going to get a response somehow. If you don't do anything, it's also a response coming. So they call it karma, but it's just basically whatever you do or don't do, good or bad, it comes around and comes back. So there is a form of energy exchange. So the good, in order to appreciate the good, you have to have the bad, right? It's like
Yeah,
sunny days versus cloudy days or stormy days.
yeah,
So
yeah,
uh, it's it's just people don't realize it. Sometimes we take things for granted, and we don't realize that there is a balance in nature, and there has to be a balance in everything, including in ourselves, because we all have the capability of being bad, and we choose not to.
yeah. Yeah, it's like this earth is like an educational ground. Because
Right.
sometimes people ask, well, if there are these good ETs, well, why don't they stop the bad ETs? But I think you've given the answer right there. Like nature isn't like that. Nature allows the lion to eat the gazelle. Like the
Right.
good ETs don't stop the lion from eating
Mhm.
the gazelle. So I think the reptilians are kind of like alligators feeding off of energy. They, like Ike says, they could be lower fourth dimensional type beings feeding off of fear or
Mhm.
anxiety or negative
Mhm.
energy. That's why they create these situations. Yeah, so I think the ETs just allow all this stuff to happen. But it's really up to us to choose. So we have a
Mhm.
choice between good and right and wrong. We have a choice. And
Mhm.
but things we get misled. Like there's so much disinformation, and within the UFO community as well. I guess I'm in a minority of thinking like disclosure has to be gradual. Like today is the release of this new documentary, Age of Disclosure, is being released today.
Mm.
There's a lot of anticipation about it. Really trying to push the government for disclosure. But I'm in a minority thinking that disclosure is really the choice of the E.T.s, and it has to be done gradual until humanity has to develop spiritually to really be worthy of disclosure. Because what humanity has done with advanced technology is use it for like war. They weaponize technology, like the atomic bomb was
Mhm.
weaponized, the atomic energy, and they use it for profiting and selfishness. So I
Mhm.
think disclosure has to be gradually until people are more spiritually developed. So that's sort of the $64,000 question. How do you get 8 billion people to get more spiritually developed? How do we
Yes.
do this?
Yeah, that would be. I'm hoping it happens in our lifetime, but you know,
Yeah, I
not
think that's
quite
what's
sure.
happening. Yeah, I think that's what's happening. These three waves of souls is they're sort of giving us some help, giving us a nudge. So maybe the real leadership is coming from the children, the star seeds, and some of them are in their 30s or 40s now. Some of these star seeds born.
Mhm.
So there's big hope that this is where the leadership will come from. These higher realm beings taking rebirth as star seed kids, and there's some evidence for that. Like I've done videos with. Mary Rodwell in Australia.
Mhm.
She's worked with like 3,000 families over the last 30 years. And a
Yes.
lot of them are starseeds kids who are psychic and can do telekinesis, things like that. So I'm,
Mhm.
I'm hopeful for the future. I mean, how do you feel? What's your, like a century
I,
from now, what's your feeling about the
oh,
future?
I'm definitely seeing the future very different than we are now. I do see the waves of the different levels of what we would call star seeds. I know that there was supposed to be more coming in the last 10 years, but they cut it down like half of what was supposed to come in. I think that they didn't realize that there had been such a big wave of awakening occurring that once they started realizing all this and that they said, okay, well, they only need this amount. Basically, let's just send this first section of the last wave and see how that works. And I could see it started to happen even in the 1940s, where
Yeah, different types of, yeah, three
the,
waves coming in. Yeah.
right, right. And they started planting the seeds. It was extremely hard for the people to say, yes, I experienced a UFO, or I went to a ship, or I could see dead people. I could see the mantis. I could see the Andromedans. I could see whatever, and or experience them. And it's very hard for them to come out and say it because they get ridiculed and they get put into hospitals. Or back then, you were crazy. So human beings tend to be a species of togetherness, of a group, and nobody wants to be the outcast. So sometimes you just stay quiet and move on. And although you feel inside very lonely, but you're feeling like you're in some type of a community, even if it's not what you're really about. But
Yeah, I
you
think
know,
we can all relate to that. I can in the UFO community because have your normie friends. We call them normies. Because you want to have some community. People like to snuggle up to their fellow humans,
right.
but but then there's the outer reality. But so many people feel a different inner reality. Maybe everybody feels alienated. Maybe
Mm,
everybody does.
yes, there's some to some extent. Yes, yes. Um, so how did you? What made you decide to do this? To do this blog and take get it out there?
Well, I feel it's the biggest issue in the world, the extraterrestrial presence, like is the biggest issue in all of human history. And there's just so much of a learning curve for people, I guess, Yeah, my feeling is it's so hard for people to get their heads around, like, it's almost like a wall, the learning curve. So I wanted a document where they could read on a blog, which is, not so long as a book. It's only about 7,000 words, which takes about an hour to read. A document where people can get the whole big picture and quite comprehensive too. That's, I guess, what motivated me to do it. Yeah.
Mm,
I
very
like
good.
one comment what you said about the 1940s, those people born around then, they were the big influence in the 1960s. That's a real example of a cultural change, like the music in the 60s and the culture
Hmm.
in the 60s. So I can see a good side of that. Like I got a book by, actually, I can have the book right here by Grant Cameron. He's Canada's most famous ufologist who lives in Vancouver. It's called
Hmm.
The Paranormal World of Music, and how a
Hmm.
lot of musicians, not only in the 60s, but even currently, have had some type of ET contact. So I think the Greys were actually part of the influence of 60s culture. Again, you can see the purpose there is to open up the mind, right?
Right.
From the 50s to the 60s. Such a change in, mind expansion, maybe even LSD, the whole idea of what's the nature of culture and reality, all that was opening up. So some people could see, a negative side of that, like drug addiction stuff, and a positive side. So again, it's probably good and bad influences. Like I would say more recently, rap music is a negative influence, but then 60s had more of an optimistic kind of music. So again, I think there's actually an ET presence behind the good and bad aspects of the music industry, because you think if you're an alien, you want to affect human culture.
Right.
Music has a big effect. All of us, are really influenced by. We love music, right? We
Hmm.
have taste in music, but it's a big deal. Music.
Hmm. Hmm.
So if you want
And
to influence the
yeah,
culture, yeah,
exactly. And what they're doing is they're basically giving us both sides, and it's up to us. We either like the music and we could embrace the music and all that, or we could embrace the music and go down the wrong road and the alcohol and the drugs and all that other stuff. It's all up to the person, and that's where part of free will is, right? Is whatever you're shown in front of you, whatever opportunity you have, how you're going to use it, how you want to experience it.
yeah.
Would you say that's does that sound like it's resonating with you, or
Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah, like I have my taste in music, and we also have a choice. Like on the radio, you don't have too much of a choice, but like I listen to music on YouTube, so I have my choice. I can choose what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with radio stations, you can choose like the type of radio station you want. But I guess some people are drawn to positive music, some people are drawn to negative music.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Again,
yeah, and everything what you do with it. So
I think it's part of cultural deconstruction. The idea is they're trying to open up the human mind in various different ways. So religion is a big one, but another one is academia
mm-hmm.
and the sense of government. Like our whole society is predicated on the idea that we're the apex of life in the universe. Humans are the highest. But once you discover that we're not the top, that the ETs are kind of guiding us or leading us or even created us, and they're in the role of God, then that
Mm-hmm.
changes religion. It changes academia. Academia is slow to accept this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's so relevant. Yeah, so we're in a process now of cultural deconstruction. So I think, it might be leading to something like a one world religion. Like people are critical of the globalists. They talk about a one world religion. So people think they're very suspicious of that. But there could be a good side and a bad side to the idea. Like maybe we're leading to a one world religion in the sense that to the ETs, what is spirituality to us? To them, that's just the nature of reality. It's like their science. They understand the mind and they
Mm-hmm.
understand dimensions, like they're interdimensional beings. So because they understand dimensions, to us, it's like religion or it's mysticism or it's miracles. It's things we don't understand. So I
Mm-hmm.
think we're sort of moving towards a one world religion guided by ETs. So that's why these globalists, like even the World Economic Forum with Klaus Schwab, they promote this idea of a one world religion, and people are very suspicious of that. But there may be a good side to that. I've had
Yeah.
to open up on my own mind, like where's this going?
Yeah. Well, Ed. I honestly believe that everything has a good and a bad. It's
Yeah.
how our intentions and what we want to do with it. You know, a bottle of beer that could be great with a piece of pizza. One bottle, one some pizza. Wow, that's great. That's just easy. You know, the taste go together and all that. But then it becomes bad when you're starting to do a case of beer to one pizza. And then that's where the, discrepancy is. So there's a potential for good and bad in everything. It just depends on the person and what they want to accomplish and what they want to do with it,
Yeah.
to experience. Um, and even like with AI right now, everybody's talking about AI, AI, AI. Well, there's good and bad in AI.
Yeah.
It's not all, perfect, and it's not all the underlying intentions may not all be good, but it, so you are the one who decides what you want out of AI.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, like
know,
I use AI for this hypothesis, and yeah, I use AI. It's helpful, but I realize a lot of it was kind of junk. It was garbage. Some of the sources weren't good sources. I have to check each individual sources,
right,
and some of
right,
them were not reputable because AI doesn't really know. It just and I had my original hypothesis, which I wrote, and I stuck it into AI, and it would give me various sources.
right,
But yeah, you have to check what it gives you because AI doesn't seem to really know what's reputable or not.
right, because it doesn't have the soul, doesn't have our human
Yeah.
essence. Um, and that's why I get very apprehensive, or a little not fearful, but aware when there are scientists that are now saying, oh, we could do this chip on somebody's brain, or take the brain and put it in a mechanical robot. And I'm like, well, what happens to the essence, our higher self, our soul that we came with? What happens in that whole transition? Now, is it going to encase us so we do not reincarnate again? Or do we actually die? So those are like questions that I'm like, I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm playing God is a great idea, as I say it.
Yeah.
It's very simple, but it's so. What
I
would?
want to comment on that. Like in my
Yeah,
hypothesis, I mentioned Neuralink, like Elon Musk has this side of it, Neuralink. I think telepathy is a big part of the future. The
hmm,
hallmark, it seems, of E.T.s is they all use telepathy, and all experiencers say that they're always communicating with telepathy. So for humans to develop telepathy, I wonder if Neuralink is just a way to sort of introduce the idea, because part of the idea of Neuralink is to develop telepathy. So maybe this is a way to introduce it. Like maybe the ETs have worked out how they're going to introduce in society, and they use Elon Musk as kind of like an agent for Mars too. I think there is a kind of genuine secret space program. They probably have American bases on Mars already. So he's trying to use these liquid fuel rockets to get to Mars. So they'll probably say, okay, he'll come through with a breakthrough. So this is one theory that he might be an agent as an intermediary to give a believable method of how we're going to get to Mars, even though we're already there. And then
mm,
it'll sort of will introduce a colony on Mars. So yeah, with the telepathy thing, I wonder if this Neuralink is a way to introduce telepathy to society. But yeah,
yeah,
as for the robot thing, I don't know. That's getting a bit far out. Yeah, like I'm a big believer in karma and rebirth as a
yes,
central view of Buddhism. Like death is no problem. You just die and get reborn. We don't
right,
have to be immortal.
right. The body is made to give up. It's like a car. There's a time where you just gotta get another car because the parts get
Yeah, it
older, they
might be
don't
more
work.
expansive for the mind. It might be good for
Right.
the mind to move on. Also, there are these heavenly realms like in Buddhism, so you could have a higher rebirth. The
Hmm.
Buddha even said it's good to have an aspiration of where you like to take a rebirth. So my aspiration is to continue with this mission of raising awareness about the ET agenda, so I could take rebirth as a gray if that would help them, or if I'll leave that to the wisdom of the mantis if they want me to take rebirth as a human. This is the
Hmm.
way I think in terms of my rebirth. So. I'm happy just to change form and die the usual way and take rebirth. Like craving
Mm-hmm.
for immortality in this body.
Right. Right. Um, so what else is in your blog that you would like to share at this moment?
I could talk a bit about disinformation and disinformation agents because it's confusing for people. Like there's this guy at TV has this whole thing of people claim to have been in a secret space program. I don't believe this because if someone was generally in the real secret space program, well, they would have secrecy oaths. They couldn't talk about it or they would go to jail. But Guy TV is these people claim that they were working on Mars for 20 years, and then their body was age regressed 20 years, and then they were sent back in time 20 years, so only gone 15 minutes, and then they get paid $500 an episode on Gaia TV. So I'm critical of that. So I think it's good to just warn the consumer that there is disinfo out there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
maybe
Mm-hmm.
the idea is to slow or just to muddy the waters because they don't want people to know about any real secret space program.
Right,
Um,
right. Well, that's the other thing. It's even now, right now with disclosure, we're just getting little pieces here, little pieces there, and only when they get forced into it, really. Um, it isn't like you could say, "Oh, we're going to do disclosure," and we get all the information. Uh, like I think we spoke about this where you believe that the reason that we're getting it slow is so that the actual brain, human mind, can comprehend and get the
yeah.
information slowly till it has time to process it and it has time to awaken slowly to each level of of information. Um, if we get it all at once, I think our mind would not be able to handle. I think our human body, which is limited in its capacity to understand and its capacity to expand by itself, would kind of like go into shock.
I think so. I think of society like religions, like there'd be like religious
Mm-hmm.
destabilization, spiritual destabilization. Because one thing people often don't think about, like real UFO disclosure, would be disclosure of our own history, because they would know our history better than we do. And
Mm-hmm.
like Napoleon says, history is a pack of lies, usually written by the victors. So we don't even know our own history. So I think one thing that's upsetting about that, there's evidence that say with Jesus and Muhammad, it's possible. Some scholars are saying that neither of them even existed; that they were created after the fact, or were kind of myths that turned into human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be part of our disclosure. And like half the world's population is Christian and Muslim. That's why it's probably better to change them from within. Like the Catholic Church, like they're more open to the idea of extraterrestrial life. They've said, we can't limit God's creation, and extraterrestrials would be like our brothers and sisters. So
Mm-hmm.
since around year 2000, the Catholics are more open because they probably know from their own Catholic seeker vaults, they might know more about this. Like for a longer time, like maybe for centuries, they've known about this.
I've heard of many good sources, reputable sources, that there is secret vaults, a lot of secrets in there, places full rooms full of interesting information that um, would um, really surprise and shock people.
Yeah.
I've heard of the original writings of the Bible books with pictures of UFOs. I've heard of what they call God as what we would call an ET. Or it's just that right now we're just using different verbiage.
Yeah, so they might maybe for centuries this goes back. I talked to a Mason in my meetup groups, Bruce Venegas, and he said that the for centuries the secret societies have actually held the ET secret. So, and that kind of makes sense that like ETs they seem to need boots on the ground. Like that's why people say within the American government They know the ET secret. We have like Majestic 12 that's been, Harry Truman put this together in 1947 to handle with the flying saucer problem. So they
Mm-hmm.
seem to need a relationship with human beings to maintain this, the secret. It has to maintain secret. Just as have an interface with humans. So how do we roll out this information, or how do we guide humanity, or how do we do gradual disclosure? So this may have been going on for centuries, and with Catholic Church, you wonder if it's like for 1,000 years what
Mm-hmm.
they've had in their vaults.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do believe that it's been there since day one. It says they want to make sure that humans have something to somehow a guidance to be accountable for what they do.
Yeah,
You know, I think that that's why religions came into place, not just beliefs or a way of life. If you have a way of life that follows a more natural, good path, there wouldn't be need for per se religion because you're guided within your own moral compass to know that killing something not really good or causing harm in general is not really good. You just would know it. And if you did that without the intention to get that um, harm done, you would take steps to undo or take steps to correct it. So there wouldn't be a need for religion to say, this is wrong. You,
yeah,
inside of you, you already know that
yeah,
that's wrong.
yeah. So
So,
yeah, you wouldn't need religion to tell you that. It's natural
right,
to know that. Yeah,
right. So, I think that that's one of the reasons why it, when it got translated, books, the Bible books disappeared from the Bible. Um, that's why there were so many scrolls lost in the desert. Um, and, so that kind of thing. I think humanity used to take more accountability. And that's why um, Atlantis and Mu, those places existed because at that time we were taking accountability for all of our actions. And then,
could be. Yeah,
then eventually corruption started because we're humans and we have free will. And of course, sometimes there is a bad apple somewhere in the tree. Um, they convince because it's easier. It's easier to convince a crowd to do things not so positive. It is very hard to
yeah.
do positive
Appealing to
stuff.
emotions. Yeah, with crowds have emotions. Even the ancient
Right.
Greeks, with their democracy, they were apprehensive of mob rule.
Hmm.
You can't trust the mob to make wise decisions because emotions can get whipped up by orators.
Right, right. Exactly, exactly. So that's why I think there was the invention of religion. I don't think it was basically to control us in one way or another.
Yeah, I think so. I want
And
to comment on the ancient Old Testament. I think his name was Glenn Wallace. He described how there are various shrines to various ETs that the original, very original Bible was.
hmm
They had a relationship with ETs, but then one king came along, was convenient for him just to focus on one, like Yahweh, which was
hmm
maybe a reptilian entity, a reptilian god. And then they focused on that and they tore down the shrines to other ETs. So the Bible was originally about an ET relationship, and then that gets all pushed aside, and they created this, idea of the Garden of Eden and then the snake and everything else.
right.
So so that's amazing if you look at that kind of history, the ET history to the Bible. Yeah.
hmm hmm Definitely. And come on, chariots of fire. Yeah, that kind of thing in itself
Yeah.
is it's still telling you.
Chariots of the Gods. You mean the
Yeah.
book? Chariots of the
No, but
Gods?
I'm saying even in the Bible it says that,
Well, there's chariots of
the
fire in the
fire,
Bible.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that in itself is telling you that something not of this earth right now as we humans see it or are capable of doing it, it's coming towards us and it's where people saw it, people experienced it. So um And I say human in a very loosely way, you know. Don't get me wrong, people. I understand there's hybrids. I understand there's a lot of ETs hidden within our society. It's okay. I just mean as a general term. So because every single time I say that, I get emails from people, and I want to make sure they understand that it's a general word. So
Well, hybrids, yeah, that's a big part of my hypothesis too. We should talk about that. Like, I think we are being hybridized, gradually hybridized. But
mhm,
I think, from an ET perspective, they're creating like the difference would be from ape to a human. Like they're creating a new human, which would be hybrids of us and them. And perhaps,
mhm,
they created Homo sapiens sapiens like hundreds of thousands of years ago because we used to be hunter gatherers. Maybe that was suitable, but now we're in big cities with millions of people. Maybe Homo sapiens sapiens isn't the most suitable for planet Earth right now. Look at how we're taking care of the environment stuff. So
mhm,
yeah, we're probably in a process of a century. It could be a centuries long process of introducing hybrids to the Earth. So it
mhm.
seems like Homo sapiens sapiens is being phased out, kind of like a vacuum cleaner. New models coming in, they're phasing out. They'll still service the old model for a while, but they're bringing in the new model now. Or
Right,
like upgrading your software on your computer. Well, it's like hardware on your computer and the software. So they're changing the hardware.
right.
And I think the DNA is very much at the heart of this. Like it seems that the
Mhm,
methods bring in DNA to each planet or to at least to our planet and
mhm,
upgrading our DNA. And some experiences have reported that the DNA being affected by tones. They brought on craft, they would have tones or light, which actually activates DNA. So we have DNA in us. So it's not even that we need new DNA, but they activate the DNA that we have. So
mhm,
this seems to be part of the hybridization process. And
mhm.
it's being gradual and behind the scenes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, and even when we do a DNA test just to find out where we came from on Earth, um, there is a certain percentage that is called junk DNA, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and like
You
there
turn
is no, I cannot believe that we're made and there's a junk DNA. I believe that's just dormant DNA that at one point or another will be awakened.
Yeah, so it's kind of turned off and they can turn it on. So maybe they have
Right,
the choice to turn it on.
right, right. So,
Yeah, so probably the new human will be telepathic, in tune
mm-hmm,
with more of a spiritual way of life, and
mm-hmm,
yeah, and a whole telepathic society, and that would really change things because you can't have secrecy and lies and stuff if you have a telepathic society. It also creates more of a communal kind of thinking, like a group think. That's what
mm-hmm,
they say about the gray ATs are really kind of a communal kind of thinking. So it raises a question of free will. Maybe the problem with 8 billion people is who have too much free will. 8
mm-hmm,
billion people, 8 billion intentions, a lot of contradiction, a lot of struggling with each other. Telepathy might create more harmony. So different way of governing, there could be a different way of governing the earth if we're a telepathic society. So it seems that's probably where it's all going, but it's done gradually. I mean, where we'll be in a generation from now might be noticeably better. It could be another century or more. But I think the starting point was like the mid 1800s, so that was already like 175 years ago.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep. And I do feel that we are getting upgraded with every generation. I see it even in my grandkids. I see them more
good.
alert than my kids were born, and more alert than I when I was born. It's, it used to be they stay with their eyes closed for a long time. Now you see kids coming out of, the hospital looking all around and noticing everything, and you're like, wow,
Wow.
what a
Yeah.
difference. What a difference. So,
Absolutely. And this process runs in generations too, like
right.
contactee families or families with ET contact, if you go back to their grandparents or great grandparents. And some are involved in the early spiritualist movement, like even in the 1800s, people who have contact experiences now. So they
Hmm.
seem to find lineages of families to work with. So I think that's kind of growing as people intermarry. That process is growing. People
Yes,
that
yes.
ET contact. But of course, most don't remember. Like people who have this contactee, we don't like to use the word abduction so much because they probably made soul contracts prior to birth or they agreed to it. So we
Right.
call them like contactees or experiencers.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it's probably most people don't have any memory of it, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because well, we know that a lot of the experiences um, kind of get tucked away in their mind and behind closed doors, kind of that memory,
Yeah,
just so they get to do what they need to do, but they don't remember and they don't get shocked. They don't have a moment where they don't know what to do with that information
yeah,
until they're ready to bring it to the in front of them,
yeah.
to bring
Yeah,
it to their
sometimes
awareness.
they remember later. Yeah,
Right.
I think that's part of the process where grandma and the family will remember. I had this experience back in the 1960s or 70s, and then the family has to deal with it. So there's probably more awakening. And some
Mm-hmm.
of them have been brought into like their city-sized motherships. This is quite an amazing thing. Like there's like city-sized ships that are not visible, to the earth, but there's evidence for this, and people have been brought in these lecture halls, and this is where a lot of inventions actually come from. Like scientists or inventors would be there in a semi-conscious state, and so what the mantis they can do, they can send thought packages into people's subconscious minds.
Mm-hmm.
Then this could come out as inventions. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think even like uh, think of Tesla. He was born around what 1858. Nikola Tesla.
Mm-hmm. I
He
believe
might be
so.
one of these
Yes.
people brought on craft, given all kinds of inventions, because he would just have visions of whole inventions in front of him, like the electric engine, and then
Right.
he would build it. So he's probably an example of one of these people given these inventions, even though he might not have any conscious memory of being on a craft, but hundreds of people, perhaps over time, like millions of people have been brought on these craft. So this
Mm-hmm.
is think of the technological growth we've had from 1850 to now, this explosion. A lot of this is probably coming from ET influence. I think that's part of my hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
The very good conclusion there. Very good
yeah.
conclusion. So, what do you see coming out right now out of, say, this time period right now that we're in, um, and how a lot more people are actually um, telling their experiences?
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be continue to be gradual, although more people will be sharing their experience. And I think there'll be more government disclosure. Like since 2017, it's been impressive. There's more people within the government or whistleblowers or so-called whistleblowers coming up. I think it's all quite controlled. So I think there'll be more disclosure, but I think it's all going to be gradual because the last 80 years it's been gradual, and people
Hmm.
they want it right away. They think, well, maybe this president or the next president is going to come. Remember when Jimmy Carter got elected? People thought, well, he's a disclosure president. He's going to do it. So people have been talking this for a long time, but I think it'll continue to be gradual. But it'll be
Hmm.
more opening up, and I think what really matters is getting the man in the street to pay more attention to this, and also the spiritual development. I think it's really
Hmm.
a spiritual question about the spiritual development of humanity. So how can we wake people up or get people to grow in their level of consciousness and opening up to higher realities? So
Hmm.
anything we can do to help our fellow man wake up spiritually and develop the spiritual, I think is part of the ET agenda. But I think they've got lots of time. They look at like 500 years at a time. To us, we have short lifespans. We want something within the next 5-year plan or something. But I think it's going to unfold gradually.
Right, right. Well, like people don't realize that we're practically the only place that keep time. I think everything else is just, to them, our 500 years is like about a second because they just know how to plan it differently. It's a whole, they don't take time the same way we do. They don't
Yeah,
accept it
different
the same.
perception of time.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah, and they
So,
say some people think the mantids actually have lifespans of billions of years. They may have overseen the entire lifespan of planet Earth, 4.6 billion years, very
yeah,
long lifespans. And probably
yes.
interconnected. I think there's a type of federation of planets. This planet is part of a bunch, so it can't be allowed to go down, go retrograde. It affects other planets somehow. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's kind of like a federation type planets and a type of government in place. Like no rogue species can simply land and break the agreement. So
Right.
I think there's
Right.
different species and maybe with different agendas, but there's probably one type of government in place. There's some order and structure to how the Earth is governed. Probably a type
Mm-hmm.
of universal governing body. People
Mm-hmm.
describe that kind of thing. Yeah. So I think we're in good hands. Like even if humanity and reptilians, there's corruption on this earth. The highest powers are good powers. I think the highest ETs are good ETs.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes me optimistic for the future. Like even if there's some things get worse before they get better, there might be a partial culling of the Earth's population or something. But I think in the big picture, I'm optimistic about the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
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 sometimes you need to bring up the junk, bring it out so you could actually sweep it, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah. That's
so.
true.
That's a big thing because you don't really know the dirt under the sofa until you actually pick up the sofa and look under there and sweep it out. So
Yeah.
sometimes it gets very well hidden, covered. So,
Yes.
is there anything that you would like to share with our audience that you have not that you feel that needs to be said at this moment?
No, I'd say just we'll put a link to my. I'll send you a link to my ET hypothesis and
Mhm.
sources so they can read it in more detail. And yeah, and I think keep doing your own research. Everyone should keep their search and stay open. Stay
Mhm.
open and yeah, see what comes in terms of disclosure. In terms of governments and whistleblowers. See what else evolves with that.
Right. And a lot of the times people don't realize that somebody who says I experienced this, they experienced it, but it may not be exactly like they're remembering. This,
That's so true. Yeah.
and what you read can, even though it may not be exactly that way, could help you expand. So there's nothing wrong with researching and
Yeah, that's true.
continue to research and read articles like yours that help you expand and help you see other sources. So
Yeah.
I really truly appreciate this, Brian, and I appreciate our audience, and I appreciate everyone coming back week after week, whether it be on the original show date or later on YouTube and recording. So, as always, thank you again, Brian. Comment back anytime that you wish to.
Yeah, thank you,
And
Linda. You're good to talk to. I really appreciate your host. You're very good to talk to.
thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for having
you.
me.
Great guest. All right. Have a good one. And as always, love you guys. Bye.
Bye now.